Hi, everyone. Welcome to live stream with me, Dr. Aparajita Jirigunta or Dr. AJ Jirigunta. For those of you who are joining me for the very first time, I am a diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant and advisor. And I do that through intentional and strategic leadership development of people by focusing on people who need to be seen, heard, valued, respected, and recognized. So, in that sense, I guess I am a leadership coach. But that is not the point of today's live stream. If you are just joining us for the first time, again, welcome. Or if you're joining us later on video, welcome too. Today, what I really want to talk about is this idea of, check your privilege, that phrase, and what does that even mean? And if you can tell, I am extremely exhausted and I'm actually physically sick right now, which may be why I don't sound 100% like myself. Please excuse me. But this was important enough for me to address no matter how sick I am, because even while I am sick, I am privileged to have the care I need while I am sick. So that's why I felt like it was really, really important for me to talk about what checking your privilege means. Like, what does that even mean? And, and one of the big reasons I want to talk about this, what I definitely don't want to do today is center the conversation around me. But I do want to use an example from my personal life and my learning moment to make a greater point. And to put that in context, what I mean is right now, there are a lot of non-Black people who are getting told to check their privilege, to check your privilege. And it seems to be almost shaming from the outside perspective, where there is this real kind of defensiveness from the non-Black people who are getting called out to check our privileges. And the thing is, it's not even about shaming. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. And again, I am going to use a personal example just to reiterate a point. So when Black Lives Matter movement, when the hashtag Black Lives Matter movement first started, for the very, very first time in social media history, when hashtag BLM first started, I was actually one of those people for the first week or so, 5 days to a week, where I was like, this is very divisive. This is incredibly divisive. Of course, all lives matter. What are you talking about? Why are you trying to divide our country? I am for inclusion. Now, when I said this, all I was seeing were the hashtag Black Lives Matter and the BLMs. I wasn't finding any resources, and I wasn't putting any extra effort into finding resources to understand the context of it. So I was coming from a place of ignorance, and a place of ignorance that I wasn't even willing to admit to. And that right there is a privilege. That is a privilege I want to highlight to anybody who feels like they don't have to do the extra work, where they feel like they just sort of get to question the universe and the society on, well, this is just what I think. And if not, then, it's on you. You get to educate me. Nope, that is a very privileged viewpoint, because it is your exact privilege that is allowing you to be willfully ignorant of somebody else's lived reality. And I'm not saying this from some kind of soapbox or pedestal. I'm saying this as somebody who was in that boat of saying all lives matter. Why are you being divisive? To then, thankfully, for my extremely super woke friends, getting completely called out on it, and then realizing these are my friends. These are people I love and adore. If they are calling me out to this extent, what the hell am I missing? What the hell do I need to learn? Because these are, again, my friends, my loved ones. So I did the work. I did all of the research, and I realized my privilege in that. I realized how the fact that I even thought that it was somebody else's responsibility to educate me. Yo, that is the definition of ignorance and privilege. So that's what check your privilege means. Are you expecting somebody else to do the work for you? I don't care if it's even another white person. Are you seriously expecting anybody else to carry your burden of your biases for you? Because that is coming from a place of privilege. And in addition to that, what I will say is that if you are feeling shamed, that is on you. Because the point of checking your privilege is to understand the benefits that you have and then to use those benefits to help those people who don't have them. Instead of realizing that, if all you're doing is feeling shamed or defensive, that is baggage you have to unpack, my friend. And again, I know this because that was a harsh reality I had to face. And I was so nervous about it and I was so disgusted, but I still did it. And when I did, I realized the extent of my privilege, which is why a week later, I issued not just, I didn't issue an apology. I literally changed everything about what I did in my actions to support those voices that were previously rendered invisible. Because my part of my privilege was also realizing that this conversation about racism happened far before I got there, happened far before my people even got there. We joined in the middle of the conversation. We aren't even privy to the full context. What voice do I have? What power do I really have? What is my position and place in this greater conversation? And many people might say, you don't have a place or privilege or space. But the thing is, I do have the privilege because of selective immigration. I do have the privilege because I have the privilege of learning and educating myself to help those who need the help, to help those who need the support. And I don't mean this as a savior or somebody who's co-opting. I literally mean this as this is the bare minimum I can do as a human being. Because when Black lives have historically not mattered, my history, my Asian American history is not complete in inclusion. I am 100% tied to that history. So while I'm not co-opting anybody else's voice, my privilege, me checking my privilege, is holding myself accountable to within my own community. When I hear other people using some kind of racist language or rhetoric, anti-Black sentiments, it is absolutely my privilege, my responsibility, and my duty to speak up because that is where the power of my voice is. And that is the best way I can use my privilege to say, hey, cut it out. No Black person is responsible for teaching you this, but I'm a member of your community. Let's have this conversation. Let me help you understand better if that is what you want. And now, if that's not what you want, then, but if you are willing to learn, it is absolutely my privilege and responsibility to use my voice toward equity and belongingness. So that is what checking your privilege means. It is not shaming. It is you holding yourself accountable for your own learning, for your own growth, and your own development. Hey, Nanda, how are you? Thank you so much for joining. And hey, Dr. Harris, thank you so much for joining. I just got a whole bunch of messages and comments. So sorry. Wasn't expecting that. Hi, everyone. I'm just seeing this. Thank you so much for joining. But yeah, so this whole check your privilege, to get back to what I was talking about, this is not the responsibility of any Black community. This is our responsibility. This is us holding ourselves personally accountable to just basic human behavioral standards of equity and belongingness. It is us literally understanding that we don't have to feel shamed for our privilege. Privilege is privilege. Let us, without judging ourselves, understand that in some ways we have certain benefits and we can use those benefits to help move conversations toward equity and belongingness along, to help move conversations towards inclusion along, to help move conversations towards justice, social justice, legal justice, economic justice, interpersonal equity and justice, corporate development and leadership representation, equity, business equity, all of this, right? For instance, I just found out earlier today that the last 6 Black women who were murdered, 5 of the 6 of them are actually younger than me, y'all. 5 out of the 6 of the last 6 Black women murdered have been younger than me. Me being alive right now is an absolute privilege that I am 100% going to use towards those causes that are being rendered invisible by inequitable systems of power, by inequitable institutions and structures of power. It is absolutely my responsibility as a human being to speak up on those and to do what I can to have conversations about equity and belongingness. And again, I'm not saying I have all the answers. Oh God, no, I don't. I'm learning. I learn every single day. I'm not some kind of a solution person in this. I'm just one voice in the overall conversation. But I'm going to make sure that my voice counts. And I'm going to make sure that my voice counts for something meaningful and not just me bitching about being shamed about my privilege. Because that's actually like the worst use of my voice. Like legitimately, literally the worst use of my voice. So if you are using your voice and your privilege to center your lack of understanding and this sort of boo-hoo, why isn't it all lives matter? That is actually coming from a place of privilege that you can use in different ways to learn and to benefit others. These things don't have to be mutually exclusive. So if you are centering Black Lives Movement conversations around you, if you are centering it around your privilege instead of unpacking it and actually doing something about it, that is when you get told, check your privilege. That is what that means. It means you could be doing something better with it. You could be holding yourself more accountable. You could be more impactful as a leader towards equity and belongingness. You are getting called out because we are expecting better of you. Why aren't you expecting better of yourself as a leader and as a human being? And that really is the question I have for anybody who feels shamed by check your privilege. Why is that shaming to you? I really encourage you to think about that because it's not about shaming. It's about what you can do better. It's about how you can learn, empower, and grow as a part of a larger movement. So if all you're getting out of that is shame, what is a message that you need to unpack there to actually hold yourself accountable and do better? And this is something I ask myself every day. Again, I am not preaching. This is something I ask myself every single day when I wake up. This is my big why every single day. I learn every single day. I make mistakes every single day. And I actively strive to improve myself every single day by how I respond to these, by the people I choose to talk to, by the leaders, by the Black leaders that I learn from. Not because I'm burdening them, but because this content is already out there and it takes like 30 seconds to find it. These books, these papers, these articles on equity and belongingness are already out there. There should be no fear mentality. There doesn't need to be any burden because these resources are out there and it takes a 30-second Google search. If you can't find it, reach out to me. I will help you find those resources. But in doing so, please check your privilege and use that privilege. Because why not? Why else are you feeling shamed about it? Why else are we even talking about it? Think about that. All right. And yes, Facebook user, I don't know who you are, but yes, we all possess privileges. Some have more than others, and some use their privilege to keep other groups oppressed. And that is also what check your privilege means is, are you intentionally or unintentionally using your voice or perspective to minimize other people's perspectives? Really unpack that. Because when I did, it completely changed the trajectory of my life in the best ways possible. And again, I'm using all of like my life experiences as examples for other people who may feel like they're not quite understanding what all of this means. At the end of the day, this conversation really, really is about checking systemic oppression. It is about reducing and minimizing systemic oppression. But that's the thing. In order for us to do that, we have to be able to include our stories. We have to be able to include the ways in which we relate to these types of societal dialogues and conversations. We cannot intellectualize it. We have to personalize it and go for heart-to-heart connections. Because when you realize that this other person, any other person, is a whole human being, a whole, full, holistic human being with their own unique needs, with their passions, with their interests, with what they want to do in life, with dreams and aspirations and hopes, just like us, just like what we have for ourselves, just like what we have for our kids. They get to have the same dreams and aspirations too, because they are human too. That's when we get to check our privilege. And that's when we get to hold ourselves accountable. And that's when we get to start talking the same language and being on the same page of the same story. That's what it boils down to. Diversity, equity, inclusion, belongingness. It's not about the processes. It's not about the procedures. It's not about the compliant issues. It really is about us seeing every other person as whole human beings and connecting with them as whole human beings who are neither inferior nor superior. They're just their own person. That's all it is. Our privileges are unique to us, and we get to use them in unique ways. Our struggles are unique to us, and we learn unique things from them. Every single one of us. No doubt about that. But historically, because of systemic racism, because of systemic structures of power and institutions, entire communities, like Black communities, like Indigenous communities whose cultures and languages and people have almost been completely eradicated due to the genocide in our American history. Many of us have far greater privileges than them because of these systemic issues. We didn't cause them, absolutely, fine. in terms of the historical nature of it. Sure, it started hundreds of years ago, but we are still responsible to move this into a better space towards equity and belongingness, to create a more stable future for all of us, for all of our kids, to help each other realize, I don't know, the humanness of humanity. Like, I don't even know what you want to call it. That is a privilege. That is also a responsibility. That is what check your privilege means. So for those of you who want to keep feeling shamed, understand that's on you. It has nothing to do with anybody else. That's coming from within you. And you need to unpack that. That's your responsibility. And I'm just telling you that as a friend. And for every single person, every single one of you who's telling us to check our privileges, I hear you. I am doing my part to check my privilege every single day. And if there's anything more I can do, I'll figure it out and I'll do it. And if every single one of us can say that, I'm super hopeful for our future, y'all. So, yeah, I didn't mean to preach. I just went off on a rant. So, sorry, but not sorry. I will be back on Monday with another live stream. I will respond to all your comments after this, I promise. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And if you're tuning in later to this video, thank you for tuning in on this too. And again, just as a final note, I'm no better than anybody else. I really am not. And that's not the place I'm coming from. But I know as your friend, we can have this conversation. So let's have a heart to heart. That's all I want. See you on Monday.